joined by Conservative MP and Brexiteer Bill Cash. Hello to you, Mr Cash. Thank you for joining us on the programme this afternoon. Election call before the end of the week?
Well, it's a possibility. I wouldn't like to guarantee it because I have no idea what the bill's going to contain for a start. And that's the proposal which the Remainers and the Labour Party are going to put forward tomorrow. And we shall see what the vote is. And we'll also see what the bill is, hopefully.
Appropriate scare tactics for those who might be voting against otherwise in your party?
Well, I think that the real problem that we've got is that there are a number of Conservative MPs who, having voted for the Withdrawal Act, which said quite categorically that we were going to leave the European Union on the 31st of October, which is exit day, and repeal the 1972 Act, which is the act that governs all our relationship with the EU. And that was passed by them. Every single Conservative MP voted for that. Even Ken Clarke. So for practical purposes, what they're seeking to do is to extend the exit day, if so I gather. I haven't seen the bill yet, but that's what it appears to be. And in those circumstances, they are effectively trying to overturn the law of the land. Yeah,
although, am I not right in saying, correct me if I'm wrong, there are plenty within the Cabinet, at least 4, I think, including the Prime Minister, who have previously voted against the withdrawal agreement. So if that had been the case, they would have had the whip withdrawn and the Prime Minister wouldn't be the Prime Minister.
Well, we've got a new Prime Minister and he was actually voted in by 2/3 of the Parliamentary Party and by 2/3 of the grassroots of the Conservative Party in the associations.
Tiny margin of the country, though, of course, just to make the point.
Well, that may be, but the reality is that you're talking now about what the Conservative MPs are doing, and that is a Conservative Party matter, and that's what this withdrawal of the whip threat is aimed at, and also the question of deselection. But the reality is that every single Conservative MP did vote for the Withdrawal Act, and voted for the repeal of the 1972 Act on exit day, which is the 31st of October, law of the land.
But not everybody voted in favour of Theresa May's deal, did they? And some of them are sitting at the head of the table or in the middle of the table opposite the Churchill clock in Downing Street's Cabinet Office.
That is true, and I can also say that there are good reasons. I mean, I voted against the withdrawal agreement, just in case you might want to raise that point.
I was going to.
And I voted against it 3 times for extremely good reasons. In fact, the treaty was never signed. That's the first point. It was never ratified. But actually, in addition to that, it contains in it a provision, it's called Article 4, which would have enabled as far as the draft withdrawal agreement is concerned, would have enabled 27 other member states to govern us behind closed doors without our even being at the table, and imposing on us those laws, and that we would have accepted them, plus the fact that the European Court of Justice would have been given precedence over the Supreme Court. So those are fundamental questions about who governs this country. And I'd be astonished if anybody really thought that it was a good idea for the United Kingdom to be governed by 27 other member states in those ways for several years.
Would you have any sympathy with the Gorkwood squad if they had the whip removed and told that they couldn't represent the Conservative Party at the next election?
Well, I would be obviously very sorry about it for a number of people and a number of reasons. But the reality is that this is a matter of absolutely fundamental policy. It's a matter which was decided in the referendum, which was a sovereign act of Parliament. So I don't want to hear any talk about, oh, well, we're defying sovereignty and the rest of it. The fact is that the actual Act of Parliament was a sovereign Act of Parliament. That was the Referendum Act. It was passed by 6-1 by the House of Commons. It was followed by the Notification of Withdrawal Act, which was passed by 499 to 120. And then the Withdrawal Act, which I just referred to, which was agreed to by every single Conservative MP. So to attempt to extend the period of time against the background of the law of the land, which says that we leave on the 31st of October and we repeal the European Community Act 1972, is an absolutely fundamental question. Therefore, not only does Boris Johnson become the leader of the party by 2/3 of the Parliamentary Party and the grassroots on the basis of what he said, the combination of these factors does make it impossible for the Prime Minister to accept any rebellion on that basis. I'm afraid that they will have brought this on themselves, I'm afraid. I hope they don't. I really urge them not to.
OK. I mean, do you have any concerns about talking about sovereignty of Parliament and in the same breath talking about proroguing Parliament?
Look, this prorogation issue is only for a matter of a few days, and it was only a few months ago. I took part in all those debates. They got through a business motion by a majority of 1, which enabled the Yvette Cooper bill to be brought in. It was brought in. They debated it. It took, 3 days or whatever. It was a very short period of time. I thought it was a disgrace, and I said I thought the whole thing stank. But having said that, that's what happened. And that was then passed. And then we got into all this business about indicative votes and one thing and another. And the bottom line is it all foundered. Theresa May accepted the idea which the EU put to her that we would actually leave on the 31st of October, which I regard as a capitulation. But the bottom line is that business motion was passed by 1. Then they tried it again later, and they lost by 14 votes with 27 abstentions. And actually, I don't think that's really been raised very much over the last few days, because they did lose that proposal. I was in the chamber debating against Ken Clarke, Oliver Letwin and Dominic Grieve. And we won that vote. That is, those of us who were against the idea of extending the period of time. OK, good to talk to you as always. Come back soon. Maybe I'll talk to you on the green during the week. Thanks very much indeed. I hope so.
Me
Thank
too.
You very much, Kay. Thank you.